Have you ever noticed a strange, heavy energy around them when they start to lose control? It isn't just an attitude shift. It is something deeper, something almost physical that you can practically smell in the air. Today, we are talking about why a narcissist's body seems to break down and rot from the inside out before they even reach the end of their lives. You might think I am speaking in metaphors, but I am actually not. Survivors often describe a literal sickness, an invisible decay that clings to the narcissist as they age. They look hollowed out. Their skin loses its vitality, and their eyes turn entirely vacant. It is as if the toxic venom they have been feeding everyone else has finally turned inward on them. This phenomenon is not just some spooky coincidence. It is deeply rooted in the chronic, unrelenting stress of maintaining a false reality. Imagine the sheer exhaustion of never being genuine. They spend every waking second managing masks, manipulating narratives, and crushing their own humanity. That level of pathological deception takes a massive physical toll. You have probably seen the early signs without even realizing what they meant. The sudden, unexplainable ailments. The chronic fatigue they use to play the victim. It is not just an act for sympathy, although they certainly use it that way. Their bodies are actively rebelling against the absolute psychological warfare they are waging inside their own minds daily. We often focus on the damage they do to us, which is catastrophic. But we rarely talk about the biological cost of their disorder. A human being is not designed to live in a constant state of hypervigilant defense and predatory offense. When the soul is starved of real connection, empathy, and truth, the physical vessel eventually begins to reflect that starvation. It feels like a dark secret, doesn't it? Watching someone you once loved, or perhaps feared, slowly wither into a shell of a person. You might even feel a pang of guilt for noticing it. But you need to understand that this decay is the direct result of their own choices. They chose power over love, and now they are paying the biological tax for that decision. Think about what happens when organic matter is deprived of light and oxygen. It doesn't just sit there peacefully. It begins to fester. It turns toxic. The same thing happens to the human psyche when it is cut off from authentic vulnerability. The narcissist has trapped themselves in a dark, airtight vault of their own making, and the air has gone completely stale. This is the truth that experts rarely discuss openly, but every survivor knows in their gut. The mask starts to slip, not just psychologically, but physically. You see it in the tension of their jaw, the rigidness of their posture, and the grayness of their complexion. The internal rotting process has officially breached the surface, and it is impossible to hide. And the hardest part? They know it is happening. They feel the weakness creeping into their bones. But instead of reflecting or seeking true healing, they double down. They become even more vicious, desperate to extract whatever life force they can drain from the people around them. They are trying to survive on your energy because their own is completely depleted. By the end of this, you are going to understand exactly how this psychosomatic breakdown works. You will see why they look the way they do, and why you must protect your own light from their desperate grasping. This isn't just about understanding their sickness. It is about validating your own reality and finally recognizing that their decay is not your responsibility. Let's look under the hood of this psychological engine. To understand the physical rot, you must first grasp the internal chaos. A narcissist does not experience reality the way you do. They live in a constant state of defensive terror. Deep down, there is a gaping void of shame and inadequacy that they spend every second of their lives running away from in panic. Their entire personality is a carefully constructed fortress designed to hide that core wound. But fortresses require an immense amount of energy to maintain. Every lie they tell, every manipulation they orchestrate, and every boundary they cross requires cognitive effort. Their nervous system is constantly flooded with cortisol and adrenaline. They never truly rest. When a human body stews in stress hormones for years, it begins to break down. This is basic biology. The inflammation skyrockets. The immune system is compromised. Their relentless need to control their environment and the people in it acts like a slow-acting poison. They are literally drinking venom every single day, hoping it will somehow kill their enemies instead. You might have noticed how frequently they complain about mysterious aches, digestive issues, or chronic pain. While some of it is a manipulation tactic for pity, much of it is incredibly real. The body keeps the score, even when the mind refuses to acknowledge the truth. Their repressed shame and chronic rage are manifesting as tangible, physical sickness inside them. Imagine carrying around a heavy, rotting weight in your chest, but refusing to ever look at it or put it down. Instead, you just try to spray perfume on it to hide the smell. That is the narcissist's daily existence. The emotional gangrene continues to spread, infecting every healthy cell, while they aggressively pretend that everything is perfectly fine and grand. The psychological term for this is psychosomatic manifestation. The mind's disease becomes the body's burden. Because they cannot process negative emotions healthily, those emotions get trapped in their physical tissue. Anger becomes high blood pressure. Jealousy becomes a sour stomach. Their absolute refusal to be accountable actually turns into a biological illness. As this internal pressure builds, the paranoia sets in. They become convinced that everyone is out to get them. This hyperarousal fries their neurological circuits. You can see it in their darting eyes and their sudden, irrational outbursts. Their brain is misfiring under the weight of its own delusions. The architecture of their false self is beginning to fracture. This is why you cannot fix them with love. Your empathy is like pouring fresh water into a toxic, leaking barrel. It doesn't clean the barrel, the water just gets contaminated. They are caught in a self-destructive feedback loop where their own coping mechanisms are actively destroying the host. They are a parasite that has finally turned its fangs upon itself. They desperately need supply, your attention, your reactions, your emotional labor, just to soothe the physical discomfort of their existence. When they attack you, it is often because they are trying to offload their internal rotting sensation onto you. If they can make you feel sick, confused, and drained, they feel a fleeting, twisted sense of temporary relief. But that relief never lasts. The void always returns, hungrier and more demanding than before. And as the years go by, the sheer biological cost of fueling that void becomes too much to bear. The physical cracks start to show. The illness becomes visible. The stench of their unhealed trauma begins to seep through their pores, and the grand illusion finally crumbles. There always comes a tipping point, a moment when the physical and psychological toll reaches a critical mass. This usually happens in their middle or later years, when the superficial charms of youth have faded. The tactics that used to win them admiration and obedience supply no longer work. People have caught on. The audience has left the theater in absolute disgust. When this isolation hits, the decay accelerates rapidly. Without external validation to prop up their false self, they are left alone with the internal rot. This is when the most terrifying shift occurs. You will notice a distinct change in their aura. It is no longer just arrogant. It becomes deeply bitter, resentful, and physically repellent. The venom has settled. You can literally see the bitterness etching itself into the lines of their face. Their features contort into a permanent scowl. The muscles in their face sag under the weight of decades of unresolved hatred. They look like a walking shadow of who they once were. The body is surrendering to the overwhelming toxicity that the mind has forced it to harbor for so long. They begin to neglect themselves, or conversely, they become obsessively paranoid about their failing health. They might bounce from doctor to doctor, seeking a medical cure for a spiritual and psychological disease. But no pill can cure the sickness of a black hole. No surgery can remove the profound emptiness that is actively devouring them from the very inside out. This is the moment they become truly dangerous, like a wounded predator cornered in the dark. As their physical strength wanes, their manipulation becomes more covert and insidious. They use their illness as a weapon. They will try to guilt-trip you into becoming their permanent caregiver, demanding that you sacrifice your healthy life to tend to their decaying one. Do not let the pity trap fool you. Even as their body breaks down, the malice remains perfectly intact. They will use their frailty to abuse you in ways they never could when they were strong. They want to drag you down into the grave with them. If they cannot thrive, they will make entirely sure that you are suffering right alongside them in their miserable misery. It is a chilling thing to witness. You are watching the collapse of a human soul in real time. The tragedy is that it didn't have to be this way. But the narcissist refuses the one thing that could save them: genuine accountability. Even on their deathbed, they will blame the world for their pain. They would rather die rotting than admit they were ever fundamentally wrong. The friends who used to enable them quietly slip away. The family members who survived their abuse go completely no contact. They are left in a desolate wasteland of their own creation. The silence in their home becomes deafening. And in that silence, the physiological breakdown speeds up. Without energetic supply, the narcissist's body simply forgets how to keep surviving. Their eyes change the most. Survivors often talk about the dead eyes of a narcissist. In this stage, the emptiness in their gaze becomes absolute. The spark of humanity is entirely extinguished. When you look at them, you realize you are looking at a house where the lights are on, but no one has lived there for years. The physical shell is just waiting to catch up. This turning point is your ultimate validation. If you ever doubted your own sanity, if you ever wondered if the abuse was all in your head, just look at how their story naturally ends. The body does not lie. The physical deterioration is the undeniable proof of the invisible violence they committed behind closed doors. The truth always writes itself on the physical body. The final collapse is brutal, ugly, and entirely devoid of peace. When a healthy person ages, there is often a softening, a wisdom that brings a sense of calm acceptance. But the aging narcissist only hardens. Their body becomes a rigid cage of regret and unexpressed fury. Their joints ache with the stiffness of a mind that absolutely refused to ever bend or compromise. This is where the metaphorical stench becomes almost literal. It is the heavy, suffocating atmosphere of a life lived entirely without grace. You walk into their room, and the air feels thick with unhealed wounds and toxic resentment. It is an energy that makes you want to immediately hold your breath and run away. Your nervous system is warning you of extreme danger. They begin to lose their grip on the false reality they spent decades building. As their cognitive function slips, the mask completely shatters. The horrible things they used to say behind your back are now screamed in the open. The cruelty they kept hidden is exposed for everyone to see. The protective barriers have failed, and the raw, rotting core is fully visible. You might feel a desperate urge to help them. Because you have empathy, watching anyone suffer triggers your compassion. But you must be incredibly careful here. Stepping into their radius during this collapse is like walking into a burning building just to offer a glass of water to the arsonist. They will pull you into the flames without a single moment of hesitation. The consequences of their lifestyle are absolute and unforgiving. The ruined relationships, the discarded children, the burnt bridges, all of it culminates in a profound, terrifying isolation. They are dying emotionally long before their heart actually stops beating. It is a living purgatory, designed by their own arrogance and constructed brick by brick over a lifetime. They cannot escape themselves anymore. The distractions have all faded. The shiny objects and new victims are gone. They are forced to sit with the monster they created, and it is tearing them apart from the inside. The chronic illnesses they face are amplified by their sheer inability to find peace. Their body is fighting a losing battle against its own internal toxicity. Even their physical voice changes. It becomes frail, yet completely laced with a venomous rasp. They will use their final breaths to criticize, demean, and manipulate. It is deeply tragic to realize that someone could reach the end of their human journey and learn absolutely nothing. They remain stubbornly committed to the very illusion that is killing them so painfully. Understand this clearly: you did not cause this rot. You could not have stopped it. No amount of your pure love, endless patience, or total sacrifice could have altered their biological trajectory. The decay is a symptom of their disorder, not a reflection of your worth. You tried to save someone who was utterly determined to drown, and you almost went down with them. To watch this collapse from a distance is sobering. It demystifies the monster. You realize they were never an all-powerful God controlling your life. They were just a deeply broken, fundamentally terrified human being hiding behind a terrifyingly cruel mask. The rot exposes their ultimate weakness. The illusion of their absolute power is finally broken forever and ever. This stage leaves a very profound lesson for the survivor. It shows you the ultimate cost of living without authenticity. It is a dark, terrifying mirror reflecting what happens when humanity is abandoned for ego. You are witnessing the very literal death of the false self, and the resulting debris is a biohazard. Do not let their final desperate collapse contaminate you. We must now turn away from their darkness and look back toward your light. You have spent entirely too much of your precious life studying their sickness, absorbing their pain, and trying to heal their unhealable wounds. It is finally time to step out of the heavy, suffocating stench of their decay and breathe in the clean, fresh air of your own glorious, earned freedom. You survived something that breaks many people. You endured the psychological warfare, the silent treatments, and the soul-crushing invalidation. But look at you now. You did not rot alongside them. The abuse tried to infect your core, but your beautiful empathy and inner truth acted as a shield. You walked through the absolute depths of hell, and you kept your own soul. Healing begins the moment you completely detach your fate from theirs. You must accept that their tragic ending is already written, and you are no longer a character in their miserable play. Give them back their shame. Give them back their toxicity. It was never yours to carry in the first place. Lay that incredibly heavy burden down and simply walk away without looking back. Your body needs healing just as much as your mind. You have been carrying the physical residue of their abuse for years. Notice the tension in your shoulders, the shallow breathing, the constant fatigue. This is your body begging you to let go. Start prioritizing your physical peace. Nourish yourself, rest deeply, and allow your overactive nervous system to finally reset. As you heal, you will notice a miraculous shift. Your own energy will return. The vibrancy will come back to your skin. The light will re-enter your eyes. While they are slowly decaying under the weight of their own lies, you are regenerating through the incredible power of your own truth. You are the living, breathing proof that love and authenticity always win in the end. Do not waste another second feeling guilty for saving yourself. When you step out of a toxic environment, you are not abandoning a victim. You are escaping a predator. You owe them absolutely nothing. Your only obligation now is to protect your peace with fierce, unapologetic boundaries. Let them stew in the lonely, bitter reality that they worked so very hard to construct. Someday, you will look back on this nightmare, and it will no longer hold any emotional charge. It will just be a chapter in the epic story of how you discovered your own strength. The memory of their dark stench will fade, entirely replaced by the sweet fragrance of a life lived on your own beautiful terms. You are reclaiming the divine narrative of your own existence. Share this knowledge. When survivors speak the truth out loud, the shame loses its power. We shine a blinding spotlight on the dark corners where narcissism thrives. By understanding the profound biological consequences of their behavior, we strip away the terrifying illusion of their dominance. We expose the pathetic, decaying reality hiding right behind the scary curtain. Keep moving forward, beautifully, bravely, and softly. The road ahead is entirely yours. You are no longer navigating the explosive minefield of their shattered ego. You are walking the solid, deeply peaceful path of genuine recovery. Trust your own intuition, validate your lived experience, and never, ever allow anyone to convince you to abandon your own beautiful reality. Their body rots because a soul cannot survive on a diet of pure deception, manipulation, and cruelty. You survived because your soul is rooted in love, resilience, and profound truth. They chose the darkness, but you fought your way back to the light. Let their tragic decay serve as your final, undeniable closure. You are free now, and they will never touch your soul again.